Welcome to Strip Coverlet, where we squeeze the bigger picture out of literature. I'm Adrian Fort, and we are here for another poetry discussion, a poetry discussion that will take place in two separate playlists here on the channel, at least two playlists here on the channel. There might come a day and time where I have done enough of Langston Hughes' work in order to necessitate a Langston Hughes playlist, but as of right now, that is not the case. This video, however, will take place in the Poetry Discussions playlist, as well as the National Poetry Month 2021 playlist. I'm doing a poem discussion every day of April 2021. So Langston Hughes, oh no, what did I do with my calendar? Pardon me. Langston Hughes is Mondays through the month, Sylvia Plath Tuesdays, Charles Bukowski's Wednesdays, Emily Dickinson Thursdays, Charles Bukowski Fridays, and Frost on Saturdays, with Sundays providing a catch-all. So 30 poetry discussions in 30 days here on the channel. Today's discussion comes to us from my big old book of Langston Hughes, Theme for English B. The instructor said, "Go home and write a page tonight, and let that page come out of you. Then it will be true." I wonder if it's that simple. I am 22, colored, born in Winston-Salem. I went to school there, then Durham, then here to this college on the hill above Harlem. I am the only colored student in my class. The steps from the hill lead down into Harlem, through a park, then I cross St. Nicholas, 8th Avenue, 7th, then I come to the Y, the Harlem branch Y, where I take the elevator up to my room, sit down, and write this page. It's not easy to know what is true for you or me at 22, my age. But I guess I'm what I feel and see and hear. Harlem, I hear you. Hear you hear me. We two, you, me, talk on this page. I hear New York too. Me? Who? Well, I like to eat, sleep, drink, and be in love. I like to work, read, learn, and understand life. I like pipe tobacco for a Christmas present, or records, Bessie, Bop, or Bach. I guess being colored doesn't make me not like the same things other folks like, who are other races. So will my page be colored that I write? Being me, it will not be white. But it will be a part of you, instructor. You are white, yet a part of me, as I am a part of you. That's American. Sometimes, perhaps, you don't want to be a part of me, nor do I often want to be a part of you. But we are, that's true. As I learn from you, I guess you learn from me, although you're older and white, and somewhat more free. This is my page for English B. Now, obviously, this is a poem about race, about identity, about race relations, about racial identity in race relations, about all of these things. But what it is that Langston Hughes breaks down here is obviously that being black doesn't make him unhuman, and being white does not make his professor unhuman, nor any of his classmates. They are in many ways the same. But this poem holds on to a strong sense of other. And though I cannot identify with the racial components of this poem, obviously, because it could work both ways. If you were a white person who was the only white person in your class, you could relate to sort of that dynamic, but not the exact dynamic, but the dynamic, some of the dynamic mentioned in the poem. However, I have always been an other, not another, an space other. And I think literature, poetry included, one of the large components is to teach us what it's like to be someone else. One of the components is to teach us what it means to be ourselves. We compare and contrast ourselves against the people that we read about in literature. We learn the perspective of the people in literature. But probably, I would say, the most vital thing that literature does is that it teaches us that the self and the other are pretty much the same. That might seem to be something which is contradictory, especially in today's world. That might be something which seems contradictory, especially in the stark individualism that we learn as part of being where I'm an American. But those base components, those driving forces, they're the same regardless of who you are, of what your differences are with the person next to you. Those base components, where are we at here? I like to work, read, learn, and understand life. Great. These are things the speaker, not necessarily Langston Hughes, the speaker here is listing that are pretty universal, especially for anyone who finds themselves reading a poem. If you find yourself reading a poem you like to read, you like to learn, and as we said earlier, probably you enjoy understanding life, understanding yourself, understanding the other, understanding the sameness between those two. This poem, for me, has always been a strong representation of the other in everyone. So I say, I've always been an other. I've never been one that fit in with anyone else. I've always been an outcast. I've always been a loner. I've always been a bit of a weirdo. Surprise. What Langston Hughes is doing here is outlining an outcast and placing that outline squarely in the heart of everyone. It's right there, baby. I am the outcast, but so are you. Simply by outlining the banal in his otherness. He doesn't mention the strange things that he might do. He doesn't mention those contrasts of background. He doesn't mention the strange things, strange to his classmates, strange to his professor, his instructor. He doesn't mention those things in this poem. He mentions all of the sameness, which harkens back. Go home and write a page tonight and let that page come out of you, then it will be true. Let that page come out of you, then it will be true. Because our speaker here decides to highlight the sameness while pointing out the otherness, outlining the otherness, and placing that otherness square within the sameness of anyone who might be reading this poem. Because our speaker does that, it is, instead of a statement on loneliness, a state on individuality. The speaker leaves and lives by himself, seemingly. My room, not our room, not the room I share with X, Y, or Z, but my room. The speaker goes to be an individual rather than a loner because of all of the sameness that he shares with his classmates and with his professor. Nothing that our speaker mentions here is particularly objectionable, is in fact, objectionable at all. That is why things like Bach are mentioned right alongside Bessie. This is why the list of, where is it here? I like to work, read, learn, and understand life. I like a pipe for a Christmas present. Boy, who doesn't? I like to eat, sleep, drink, and be in love. Very few of us would object to any of that. I don't like to eat. I hate eating. It's a waste of time. But other than that, I mean, who objects to any of those things? These moments, and this is a personal note. That's basically the entire poetry discussion, but this is a personal note here for me. These moments where you have a seemingly simple assignment and you decide to be a little bit of an asshole with it. Go home and write a page tonight, said the instructor. Not, go home and write a poem. Go home and write a poem about how different we are and how that makes us the same. That is not what the instructor says. These moments that seem a bit of a slap in the face from the instructor, these are the moments that make this poem special to me, because these are the moments that highlight my academic career. Moments where a seemingly simple assignment was given. I said, fuck it. Let's piss them off. I've given this example on the channel before. I had a professor who, for world literature, and one of the assignments, one of the papers, was to write a paper, and one of the suggestions that she gave the professor was, write about how one of these male authors wrote a female character terribly. Didn't capture what it meant to be a female. How dare he try something like that? So I wrote a paper about The Tale of Genji, which was possibly the first novel ever written. I think definitely the earliest novel of which we have a copy. But it was written by a woman about a young prince named Genji. Genji just sort of paraded about the countryside and found himself some trouble. So my paper was titled The Tale of Genji, a meandering tale of a philandering male. And it was about how poorly Lady Murasaki had written a male protagonist. This did not land home with that professor, but that was my page for English B. So this is a poem that has always been pretty special to me, and recognizing that little bit of assholishness and standoffishness and individualism within the words of Langston Hughes. That is all I have for this poetry discussion. Look, I've got new videos on the channel. Normally, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Mondays are for poetry, but this month, I have a video, a poetry discussion, every day of the week, as well as my read-along series being continued on Wednesdays. I hope to see you next time. Tomorrow is a Tuesday, so there will be some Sylvia Plath on the channel. And I also hope to have you over on my personal channel, a link to which can be found in the description below, where I talk about movies and nonfiction, philosophy, workouts, goal setting, and things like that. I hope to have you on both of these channels, and I'll see you next time.